Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of All Access AM. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning. We have college football playoff rankings to get to, and we will break down what it means for the ACC on this show. We'll talk a little bit about Week 11 coming up, as well as we have no guests today. This is a time where we get to spend showing you what All Access AM is going to be all about, as far as what you'll get with a lot of me, Billy Embody, breaking it all down for you guys every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll let some people file in on the live feed here. We appreciate all of you guys who've subscribed to the channel on our YouTube page. Half of you, roughly, it's about 45% of you that watch are subscribed. 55% are not subscribed. So if you see that little button there at the bottom of this screen that says subscribe, it means you're not subscribed. So click subscribe if you're watching us on our YouTube channel. Please do that on our All Access AM YouTube page and follow us on our socials as well. But we've got a lot to get to today on this edition of the show, as we do have those college football playoff rankings. I'll give you my take on what it means for the ACC and kind of what's next, because this is a interesting top 25 to say the least, I think, with regards to the ACC. And there's a lot of different things that, I think really share where the committee is at in the early goings. Now, I will say this. I think this committee is going to change where they stand on a lot of things. They are in that tough place between the SEC and the Big Ten, obviously pushing their narratives, pushing their product, all of those things. And that is where a lot of people are kind of stuck right now, is having to navigate that and figure out how to appease that new strength of record or record strength metric that has been brought into the college football playoff picture so far this year, after last year's college football playoff with SMU getting in just over Alabama, a couple of SEC teams that were logjammed there right after SMU. And that kind of caused a lot of change in this world of the college football playoff rankings. So, look, this Wednesday morning is a really interesting one for me, guys. I don't know if many of you know this. I do still play hockey, beer league hockey. And Tuesday night, we had a 10:30 game. So running on a little bit of sleep. And guess what? My son, Jack, looking at him out at the Nanit here, he is still asleep. So at some point, you are going to get to hear the morning routine with a now 19-month-old. Quite the experience there. If we had a camera crew, if we had a producer live in this set, we might take the camera off and give you guys the whole show. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to share that with you. But he might pop in and say goodbye now before he heads off to school. Speaking of heading off to school, you ever drive by a school and you think those people take great care of their schoolyard, of their surrounding area around that elementary school, around that daycare? Well, guess what? OPW Solutions is probably the reason why. They do an incredible job with their exterior maintenance. They're a full service company that helps manage different commercial properties, from landscaping, power washing, snow and ice control. They're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but they're also in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and expanding in 2026. Their mission is simple: build trusted relationships with exceptional service and invest in people and the community. And AJ Crow is the man running the show over there at OPW Solutions. And I encourage you to reach out to them, 214-444-3305, or email them, info@opwsolutions.com, opwsolutions.com. The holidays are right around the corner. This is a perfect opportunity for you to use them to do your Christmas lights as well. Fence maintenance, you've got that aspect of it too. Maybe schedule something for your company to get some work done, maybe around the holidays where people are out of town. You could get some maintenance done on your business. It's a great opportunity to work with our friends at OPW Solutions. And of course, make sure that you're scheduled with them for their snow and ice control as well. You already want to be contracted with them. I think this is a company that will give you their full attention with that exceptional care and attention that you want. So reach out to our friends at opwsolutions.com, and they can take full care of you and your company, and give you that attention that you need and want. Again, in Dallas, Fort Worth area, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and expanding in 2026. So appreciate their support of us at All Access AM. All right, enough. We've probably lost some of you guys already with Beer League Hockey Talk, previewing what's to come with Jack getting up in a little bit here. I see him kind of rolling over a little bit. Well, speaking of rolling over, if you're an ACC football fan, you got to be rolling over this top 25, I think, right off the bat. For me, the highest ranked ACC team. Okay, shout out, Notre Dame getting to number 10, but Virginia at number 14, Louisville at 15, Georgia Tech at 17, Miami at 18, and that is the group. I got a lot of thoughts. I don't want to try to make this a show that will rip on the committee and will tear down everything they're doing, because there is a very difficult aspect to this. There's no question about it. But man, have you not really watched the ACC this year? And I don't mean to say it like that, but yes, Virginia is unbeaten, for example. They are at 14. To have them that low and be unbeaten shows me you're not really watching kind of what's going on, in a sense, right? Virginia has played with fire. They are not playing their best football, but they are also winning, and they have won since that NC State game. Their schedule is not great, but I don't think you can have them at 14. You've got to have them higher. But I respect the fact that Louisville is right behind them, because if I'm me on that committee, Louisville's the best team arguably in the ACC right now. You can make the argument that, okay, SMU just beat Miami. You could kind of do some of those things, but at the end of the day, SMU has 3 losses on its resume. There's no way, obviously, they're going to be in this thing. Not advocating for that. What I'm advocating for is what Louisville has put together. If you're going to have Virginia at 14 and then Louisville at 15, consider having both much higher than that. You look at the top 25 right now, and you've got Texas, Oklahoma, Utah kind of ahead of those. Notre Dame, I don't mind. Those 2 losses that they have, Miami and Texas A&M, really strong. But then again, Notre Dame is not going to really have a good win. The good win that's going to get touted is at Pittsburgh, if they can get it, which is kind of wild. Their remaining schedule is Navy, Syracuse, Stanford, and then Pittsburgh thrown in there as well. Notre Dame at 10 obviously puts them in, and having Miami at 18, I think is just indictment on where that program is viewed from a perception standpoint, because Miami, which could have beaten Louisville, goes to SMU on the road and loses to a team that took them to overtime, and certainly their record is not going to help that case. But for Miami to be in that logjam is just really confusing to me. It's like they kind of threw in all the ACC teams and said, all right, this is kind of where we think the ACC champion should be. Because Virginia doesn't really have an opportunity to raise itself. They don't have a chance to say, oh, wow, look at that down the stretch. That's where Virginia, good on them. Now, here's the caveat with that. How much shuffling is going to happen when teams like Oklahoma, that goes at Alabama coming up, big game there. Texas goes at Georgia, big game there. Then faces Texas A&M among their games. If they lose those games, where do they fall to? And does that kind of take care of itself? Because that's my question that I have. And this is a great point by Anthony Eason. Louisville already has that Pitt win plus Miami and a 7-1 JMU team. It's a great point. If I'm ranking the ACC, power ranking, which we can probably get into at the end of this, not the end, but we could get into in the back half a little bit, kind of where everything stands in the ACC. Louisville's the best team in the ACC, the best resume right now. There's no doubt about that. Pitt, you can make the argument that they're also playing their best football. They're right there with Louisville, but also now Louisville will have to factor in Isaac Brown being out. Thanks, Anthony Easton, jumping in on the comments there. Hope you're subscribed and hope you enjoy the content. Looking forward to having you on the show more. Louisville right now for me is a team that can play with just about, I don't want to say just about anybody in the country because that Isaac Brown loss, I want to see how that goes. But you do have a team that athletically, physically, and from a head coaching perspective is in really good shape. That's worth talking about. And the committee isn't giving Louisville enough respect in that regard because they're not giving Virginia enough respect. They're not saying to themselves, okay, we have Virginia at 14. That means that no other ACC team could be above them. That's silly. That is absolutely silly. So give Louisville the flowers at some point over their next few games if they can come away unscathed. Of course, SMU on the schedule for Louisville, and Louisville's got to go on the road. They've got to play that SMU team on their 6th straight game without a bye. And they also play Cal, Clemson, and then they finish up with Kentucky. Louisville should be, if they can come away unscathed, they really should be a top 10 team, top 8, in my opinion, if they can come away unscathed. None of that is going to look sexy if they do. Cal, Clemson, SMU, Kentucky, none of them right now, top 25 teams. None of them are probably going to be top 25 teams. The only way SMU ends up a top 25 team is honestly if they beat Louisville. So that would obviously take Louisville out of that picture in a sense. But you have right now, you're sitting there, lost to Virginia in overtime, and you beat Miami when they were number 2 in the country. And the biggest thing for me when you want to look at this strength of record is where the team is at when they played the game. Miami could not have been hotter, right? Everybody was talking about, including me, should they be 1? Should they be 2? Carson Beck has a bad night, and that knocks them off their pedestal. But they still beat Notre Dame to open the season at home. That's fine. They beat a South Florida team that was very good and dismantled them. And South Florida still sitting there 6-2, bowl eligible. They've stumbled, with their loss at Memphis. So they've got to get back on track. But Miami is still and should be viewed as a measuring stick for teams that are in this discussion. That last game of the year for Pitt, if you're Pitt and you're going to take a shot at moving up the rankings, and I'm sorry, I forgot Pitt at 24. They're number 24 in the college football playoff rankings. So to review, Virginia 14, 15 Louisville, 17 Georgia Tech, 18 Miami, 24 Pitt. I'm sorry, I always read them as Pitt. So they're typed out as Pittsburgh on 3. Pitt, that last game of the year, if they make this run and they finish the way that they have an opportunity to, are you going to give them the appropriate credit? They'd have a top 10 win over Notre Dame. They'd have a top 25 win over Georgia Tech. But would that knock Georgia Tech out of the top 25? They'd have a top 25 win over Miami. Would that knock Miami out of the top 25? Because Pitt has this resume that says, hey, look, we made a change. Our only 2 losses are to one possession games. And oh, by the way, one of them is to Louisville, who's currently above us in the rankings as well. Pitt and Louisville have huge opportunities ahead of them. They have the rosters that can compete in the college football playoff. And I want to break that down as well a little bit too, because you have a playoff committee that, in my opinion, are going to start saying, when you look at some of these first round games that have happened, all they're doing is trying to play a game of pick 'em. Who is going to have a chance to beat so-and-so? Does their roster stand a chance against so-and-so? The first round matchup right now for Virginia being the ACC champion is versus Ole Miss on the road. That's not a matchup that I like at all for Virginia. I mean, very, very tough to see them going to Oxford in December and figuring out a way to beat what Lane Kiffin has going there with the Rebels. Just from the trenches, the skill position players, very, very difficult. If I'm the college football playoff committee and I could maybe convince the room of this, Louisville would have a chance in that game. And that's where I think eventually we're going to see a lot of these first round games kind of dictate how they view these matchups and how they view these rankings. Because Louisville doesn't really have a chance right now to really kind of make their move, and Virginia holds the head-to-head over them, which, by the way, doesn't matter if you're Notre Dame. Look at the discrepancy between Notre Dame and Miami. It's crazy. It's nuts. I appreciate Spam Caller 4011 chiming in on the chat. I'm not sure exactly which. I assume this comment is about SEC teams getting credit for beating the team that they beat when they beat them. That's where that's probably my biggest gripe with the committee, is the lack of consistency, and as well, not only the committee, the talking points around the college football playoff and the rankings. There's not enough of accountability with the committee and with the panel and with all the people that talk about the college football playoff as far as how those wins or how those losses looked at the time. That is something that is really hard to do. It's hard to stay consistent with it. But like I always think of last year, SMU plays Pitt. Pitt was undefeated. Pitt was playing good ball, and SMU broke Pitt. They lost the rest of their games. Now, they had other issues. Eli Holstein at the time was kind of in and out of health and all those things, which should make it look a little bit better to begin with. But SMU beat an undefeated Pitt team, and then Pitt falters, and it's not even talked about when they made the playoff as a good win, despite dismantling them and dismantling their season at the same time. And now Louisville is not going to get credit for dismantling Miami's season, because Miami still has a tough road, and they are out basically of the ACC championship. Very tough road for Miami to get into it. But that is at least probably why they're ranked where they're ranked, because the committee views the likelihood of them staying in the mix as high. And where Pitt is ranked, again, 2-loss team, both in one possession games, similar to Miami, different level. But Pitt has also made a quarterback change. Who is playing the better football right now? You could certainly make the argument it's Pitt over Miami, now that we have the sample size of the last couple of games for Miami, coming off those Louisville and SMU losses. Obviously, they bounced back against Stanford. They're still a very talented roster. But you could make the argument that Pitt shouldn't be all the way down at 24. The committee is saying, hey, Pitt, great job. You're in the top 25. We don't see you getting over the hump past Notre Dame. We don't see you getting over the hump past Georgia Tech. We don't see you getting over the hump and kicking the door down and beating Miami the final game of the regular season. We're just going to keep you at 24. We're going to say thanks for all you've done. Mason Heinschel, thanks for showing up. You got a bright future. Use this as a carrot. If there's going to be that logjam of ACC teams from that 14 to 18 range, 4 of those 5 teams, Pitt might as well make it 5 of 6. And again, committee has a difficult task to do. But if you miss the college football playoff rankings, I'm going to rattle off the top 25 for you as quickly as I can. I'll give some commentary if I feel necessary. Ohio State, number one, no debate there. Indiana, number two, no debate there. For me, I would say Texas A&M could be above them. Just that's more eyeball test for me. Then Alabama, of course. Alabama lost to Florida State, which that loss is horrible. Now that we know what we see from Florida State, good roster at Florida State, bad loss to a bad team. Georgia playing really strong football. They finish at Mississippi State, then they host Texas, face Charlotte, and then at Georgia Tech. So they'll have two opportunities there to maybe continue their climb and ascent. Ole Miss at number 6, I like that as well. Good spot for the Rebels. And they don't really have a chance to get a signature win down the stretch. I think they're on a bye or, they have a bye mixed in here very soon. They play Citadel, Florida, and then at Mississippi State. BYU at 7 and Texas Tech at 8. This one's going to get settled as well. A lot has been made of the Big 10 or the Big 12 having 2 teams or 3 teams in the top 13. I don't think this is a really big deal overall. You've got BYU and Texas Tech, and for Texas Tech, they will host BYU this weekend. Then they play UCF and at West Virginia. Not really a great opportunity to boost your resume. BYU has at Texas Tech, huge opportunity there. Then TCU, and then at Cincinnati, a decent resume opportunity there, and then UCF. Those are some pretty good matchups as far as having 2 teams that are getting a lot of respect, at least, to boost your resume a little bit of your BYU. And then Oregon, they have at Iowa, Minnesota, USC, and at Washington. Solid opportunity there in a couple of spots there. USC's top 20 team. Iowa is top 20 for Oregon. Notre Dame. I want to pause here at 10 with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's remaining schedule: Navy at Pitt, Syracuse at Stanford. Everyone in America could see what was going to happen with Notre Dame over the course of this season. They played Miami on the road and they played Texas A&M at home, and they lost by 1 or 2 points, however close it was, to both of those teams. 2 teams that are in the top 20. Texas A&M obviously in the top 5. But you knew, watching this Notre Dame schedule, you knew it, that they had the chance to rattle off as many wins as they now have, and they're now sitting in the top 10, number 10, which is fine. But where is their credit? For what? Texas, Oklahoma probably should be above them. I just don't. When you can factor in maybe the eye test, yes, the strength of record, but also, man, that eye test for me with Notre Dame isn't really playing well here. And to my point about Texas potentially being above Notre Dame, Arch Manning, he is starting to maybe turn the wheels a little bit. Oklahoma's playing great defense. John Mateer and company, they have not kind of gotten over the top since that loss to Texas. So they're kind of in 2 peculiar spots there, but they'll have opportunities to earn it here down the stretch. Like if Texas goes on the road and beats Georgia, they're probably going to jump Notre Dame. If Oklahoma goes on the road and beats Alabama, they're probably going to jump Notre Dame, is my guess. But Notre Dame right now and where they're at as a whole, not giving me the warm and fuzzies. And that's a team that obviously advanced and went all the way through the bracket in the college football playoff and fell just short. But this is a different team. This is a different set of circumstances for them, but you knew it with Notre Dame that they were going to make this jump all the way up. And Anthony Eason, great point. SEC middle teams get overrated that way. If the SEC top teams lose to them, they aren't punished, win, and they get extra credit. That's their corrupt formula. Obviously the formula is what the formula is. I am not trying to tear the SEC down because it's not their fault that they're the way they are. It is the way they are. It is their fault the way they are being a huge conference, and they have this hodgepodge of teams that end up being middle of the road at the end of the day. You look at, kind of their back half of the top 25 teams, Tennessee does nothing for me. Missouri does nothing for me. Those teams I just don't buy as these, really solid football teams. Texas and Oklahoma have their warts, but at the end of the day, they have pieced together good seasons and deserve to be kind of right where they are. When you look at their upper echelon teams, Texas A&M is playing really good ball. Alabama is playing really good ball right now. Georgia, Ole Miss. I don't mind those teams at all being where they are. But when you break down their schedules and you think, okay, at Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, yeah, they've kind of fallen on hard times, but now they're kind of back. They came back and beat Arkansas, and they've kind of played a little bit above expectations this year in Starkville. Does nothing for me. An Auburn team that is talented but really hasn't shown anything does nothing for me. Florida down the stretch for Ole Miss does nothing for me. So that's where now when you have this initial set of rankings, it's really hard to ascend in a sense for some of these SEC teams. If the SEC keeps their Alabama, their Texas A&M, their Georgia, their Ole Miss kind of right up there, that's fine. That's 4 teams. That's kind of what you'd expect in a sense. But if they start having all of these teams beat up on each other, and Texas beats Georgia, and Oklahoma beats Alabama, and then Alabama goes out and finds a way to, their stretch is not great. If Alabama loses to Oklahoma, that's going to be a really, really interesting discussion around them once again, because they don't have many other opportunities to prove that they are an upper echelon team after that. They've proved it throughout their season, being where they're ranked and the games they've won. But you're now in this spot where if Oklahoma can get a win, they're going to have to be all shuffled up and all of those things. But all right, here are the first round games, matchups. Memphis at Georgia, Virginia at Ole Miss, Notre Dame at BYU, Oregon at Texas Tech. The first 4 out would be Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, Louisville. The next 4 out after that, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Miami, USC. And the buys would, of course, be Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. So that's your college football playoff bracket. We've spent 30 minutes on it. I do want to finish up with solely the ACC and how they can get multiple teams in here. For the ACC to get multiple teams in, you probably need Virginia to win out. That is something that could really help the league as far as getting that team over the hump and through to the college football playoff. And all they need to do is get to Charlotte and do that. And then that could very well punch their ticket to the college football playoff. Their one loss to NC State, which just took down Georgia Tech. That is a good roster. It's just a team that's underachieved. That's kind of who NC State is. Virginia plays Wake Forest at Duke, and then Virginia Tech in a rivalry game. That's their final 3-game stretch here in the regular season. That for Virginia Tech, or for Virginia, should get them to Charlotte. That's fine. You're not going to see any chaos from the Cavs, the Cavaliers, the Who's. You're not going to see them kind of throw a wrench in things. And Louisville has an opportunity as well to do the same. They play Cal, Clemson, SMU, and Kentucky. If Louisville gets to Charlotte, then you're looking at a team that will have gotten an SEC win late in the season. Again, it's just Kentucky. That's the problem with that's to Anthony's point. It's a middle of the road, kind of bottom tier SEC team, but they're going to get credit if they can beat Kentucky as well. So if Louisville gets to the ACC championship and wins it, that should punch their ticket. Virginia should not be penalized, although I'm of the opinion that it is not going to be great for Virginia if they make it into the college football playoff. I just don't think they're going to have success. I will bet against them, and you're going to see a program that has bounced back and had a great season, and Tony Elliott and company deserve a lot of credit for the turnaround there and their administration and the investments, but I just don't see them being able to make a positive impact in the college football playoff. I could see Louisville doing that. they would have a tough test, of course, on the road, probably going into the college football playoff if they do win out and get to Charlotte and do all of those things. That is not best case for the ACC, but it is a really good duo of teams that could represent the ACC in the cleanest way possible, in my opinion. Georgia Tech, their lone loss being to NC State, they probably got penalized a little too much for that. But there's a lot of people that I talk to that aren't convinced that Georgia Tech isn't that great, kind of putting them in the same space as Virginia. People that I talk to and kind of watch a lot of college football, uh, agents, some coaches, there's not much love around Virginia and Georgia Tech for those people. The love is really around the rosters of Louisville and Miami and Pitt. Those are a trio of teams that have really solid rosters that can make things happen down the stretch run and really impress a playoff committee, especially Pittsburgh. We know the rest of the schedule that they have. So think about that a little bit when it comes to what can be really clean here for the ACC. The cleanest way is probably Virginia and Louisville getting in. They're the two highest ranked teams right now for the College Football Playoff Committee, and they have rosters that will get the respect because of where they're ranked right now. They're above Vanderbilt. That's big as well. Vanderbilt has a chance here to bounce back this weekend. They do face, let's see, Vanderbilt faces Auburn, and then they face Kentucky. So Vandy's schedule is nothing crazy down the stretch here, and they face Tennessee, which is in the top 25 for now. Tennessee is going to be a really interesting team to watch. Let me say goodbye to Jack real quick, but you can see him come in here for just a second, guys. You get a little appearance from Jack. That's what you guys pay for. Speaking of paying for, there's nothing to pay for here. Just hit that subscribe button for me to All Access AM. It's always a good thing when your 19-month-old sleeps in a little bit. But to close it out on the ACC and the College Football Playoff Committee, the College Football Playoff Committee has a really tough hill to climb internally for the ACC now. 14 for Virginia. Again, their lone loss of the year to NC State, which just knocked off Georgia Tech. So there should be a little bit of, okay, that's a good roster. That's their lone loss. Let's give them a little bit more credit. Georgia Tech, give them a little bit more credit. Louisville's playing great ball. Give them a little bit more credit and let the chips fall where they may. But winning games, once again, has to matter. And for the ACC to get multiple teams in, they're going to have some of those teams that are in good positions win out. And the wild card, of course, that could really screw it all up, I feel like, in a good way for SMU fans, but maybe a bad way for the ACC is SMU. If SMU wins out, they need a little bit of help. But if they win out, they get into the ACC championship. And if they win it, then they could really throw a wrench in things. Because then how do you view that ACC championship loss for whatever team is in there? If Virginia wins out, they should still be in. If Louisville wins out, well, they can't win out. It's either SMU's going to go or Louisville's going to go out of those two, assuming either one of those teams takes care of business and wins out. But if SMU wins out, it's going to be Virginia. It's going to be Georgia Tech. It's going to be Pittsburgh. The ACC is a fascinating race. My problem is the College Football Playoff Committee kind of set it up to potentially eat its own and then not get rewarded for it in some cases. The biggest upside team in the ACC is Pittsburgh right now. If they go out and win their next 3 games, oh, buddy, it is going to be really interesting to see how far up that College Football Playoff Committee puts them, because they are playing some of the best football in the country right now. They're going out and getting wins, and for the most part, doing it with ease. So it is a really intriguing place to be in if you are Pittsburgh watching this unfold. You are in the top 25. You're at 24, but you still have a ways to go. So do want to remind you guys again, we're presented by OPW Solutions, opwsolutions.com. They can help your business look the way it needs to. Again, a commercial full service company servicing your properties, whether it be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then they're expanding in 2026. So make sure you reach out to them and find out where they're expanding to and talk with them more about what they can do for your company. 214-444-3305. We're also presented by our friends at biggameusa.com. Biggameusa.com. If you're a Pitt fan right now, guess what? You can grab yourself an official Pitt football and you can have it all set and ready to go and signed by the Pitt Panthers and their football team for your favorite friend, family member, what have you. You can go to biggameusa.com and get 10% off your order today with code BEON325. Those are all numbers at the end. BEON325. So check them out. They are the official footballs of the Pitt Panthers, NC State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, SMU, and others. So check them out today, biggameusa.com. Again, code is BEON325, and that gets you 10% off your order. And I believe you get free shipping on orders over $100. So win-win there. So make sure you check them out, biggameusa.com. Probably should be drinking more water versus coffee this morning following that 10:30 hockey game. But we are rocking and rolling here on this Wednesday morning. We're going to have a jam-packed show for you guys of guests previewing Week 11. I think I might have even said Week 10 earlier in the show, but I'm not sure. Week 11 for the ACC, another opportunity for a lot of teams to make a statement. But generally for me, watching this Week 11 schedule for the ACC, fairly quiet in a sense. You got SMU at BC, Syracuse at Miami, Duke at UConn, Stanford at UNC, Wake Forest at Virginia, Cal at Louisville, Florida State at Clemson. Pretty safe. Pretty safe. Might not be the spooky weekend we saw last weekend with two top 25 teams, two top 10 teams going down with Georgia Tech and Miami falling to NC State and SMU. But Wake Forest gets blown out last week by Florida State. Maybe they're capable of going on the road and stealing one from Virginia. Cal, they got to feel like they really let one slip through their fingertips at home last week. Maybe they go full blown across the country, not all the way to the coast, but they go out to Louisville. Tough place to play. Night game on ESPN2. That'll be a good one. And maybe they can wreak some havoc. But for the most part, you look at the schedule, it should be pretty safe for the ACC this week. Should be. That is where the ACC has to take care of business. And that is why last week's loss for Georgia Tech to NC State is really, really difficult to kind of put your arms around and say, oh, man, NC State, you are just so you for doing that. But why? Why? It is unbelievable just how NC State can do that to teams. Virginia, Georgia Tech, the lone blemish for each team. NC State. You see where NC State can go? It's crazy when that roster plays up to its potential. They are a program that is in a very difficult situation right now because Dave Dorian, I think it's stale. I said that maybe last week, the week before. I don't know what they're going to do, though, when push comes to shove at the end of the year. There's no conversation around it right now. There's no buzz around it from a big picture perspective. Other reporters, journalists, all of those things are all focused on the big jobs, the Virginia Techs, places like that that are looking for a new coach. But also, you haven't really done anything over the course of, that run for him. So is it time in this day and age of college football where you can turn a roster, you can find a way to upgrade the talent level that you have? And do you get into a position where you take a chance and say, look, we're going to part ways. It's been a great run. You've been a great ambassador. Here's maybe a job in a front office in the university. But thank you. Here's where we're going to go. We're going to go take a shot at shaking things up. And right or wrong, somebody's either going to get huge pat on the back if that happens, or get fired. That's the reality of decisions like that. But it is so stale, but there is so much potential with NC State. That brings us to our power rankings. We now have obviously clarity at the bottom. Boston College is at the bottom. They do face SMU this week. They host them in the red bandana game. Huge game for BC because obviously they're 1-8. They're 0-5 in the ACC. They were so close last week to beating Notre Dame. Again, probably not talked about enough when you see Notre Dame checking in at number 10, but I'm all about winning football games, and that's what Notre Dame did. They made the plays that were necessary to do that. Bill O'Brien is hot, and he is really, really ticked off about where things are from an external perspective. Internally, he says they're fighting. He says no one's down, all of those things. There's a viral clip of him out there talking with some of the BC reporters. Let me see if I could try to pull it up here and play it for you guys. Pretty wild stuff to be in that position. And I know you're kind of defending your program, but you also are in a situation where you're 1-8. You haven't had any sort of success this year. Your closest amount of success is almost beating Notre Dame. So just take it on the chin. That would be my recommendation to Bill O'Brien, and just kind of bite your tongue and then let your play this weekend do the talking. But maybe he's right. Maybe he is defending his team. Maybe they are in a strong position to make some noise, but they're at the bottom of the power rankings. But here is what Bill O'Brien said this week in this exchange with a reporter up there.
Coach, wondering, do you have a message for the fans? Obviously losing to Notre Dame, Catholic school rival, 1-8 now in the season BC. I've heard from a lot of fans. They're just really
I'm really glad. I'm glad you're down. I'm not down. Nobody's down. We're fighting. We're competing. It's the second year of this program, Mike. You always come in here with these down questions. Like you show up like once a month or something like that. You come in here with these down questions. I'm not down. I don't know what year you graduated from BC, but this is a program that we're building. Okay. Nobody here's down. We're positive. We're going to show up and play our asses off against SMU. You can go out there in your dark, clouded world or whatever it is and do what you want to do. We're not down. The sun is up and we're fighting. That's my message to the fans. What's up, Trevor?
I do love the complete turn to Trevor, who does a great job up there, and just said, "What's up, Trevor?" That is what I do love. That's my favorite part of the clip. But things are not going well right now for Bill O'Brien, and truthfully, he is a very, very bright coach. He is a brilliant offensive mind. We've seen him have success at multiple stops, but also people just forget what happened to the Houston Texans. Anyway, Boston College, we spent enough time on them. Sorry about that, guys. Did feel good, so to speak, about this. Called it last week. North Carolina was going to go up there to the Carrier Dome and beat Syracuse. Syracuse does not have an offense. Fran Brown is just fallen on tough times, man. You lose Steve Angeli. They could have an argument for maybe being the bottom, but BC is that bad. So they did go out and start Joseph Filardi at quarterback. They didn't get much going. Syracuse is at number 16 in our power rankings. No, North Carolina, this is one of the areas that I struggled with, because North Carolina is playing good football. But to have a 1-3 record, and Stanford, I feel like, is playing some decent ball. I'm going to go with Stanford at 15. I don't mind it, but it's pretty pretty much 14A, 14B, 15A, 15B between Stanford, North Carolina. North Carolina goes on the road, gets a win. Really impressed with the job that they did to go out there and play kind of the game that they needed to go get that one. They didn't have the critical error to screw up what was a golden opportunity. That Syracuse offense was just horrible. They've tried multiple quarterbacks, it's just not going anywhere. So kudos to North Carolina for getting the win. They're at 14. 13, Wake Forest, and then Cal at 12. Wake Forest goes on the road, and this is where Jake Dickert probably pulls his hair out and is like, God, when you're building a program and you're trying to change the culture and you're trying to really improve things and do all of those things, you got to have games like this where you go on the road and FSU wins their first ACC game in a calendar year. Really, really difficult to see Wake Forest lose that way. It was a really big opportunity for them, I felt like. And they fall. They are 5-3 in ACC play. They're 5-3 overall. They're on the verge of bowl eligibility. I don't love where they're kind of playing as a whole, but they obviously got that win over SMU. But to see them kind of come back down to earth a little bit is, we did pick FSU to win that one. We felt pretty good about that for them to break through. They do. And Wake Forest kind of looks, you see the talent disparity between the two rosters in a game like that. Cal at 12, they did lose to Virginia. This score, 31-21 last week, doesn't necessarily look as bad as it or close as it was. So Cal at 12, I don't really have too much else to add. They have not played enough complementary football to break through. So they're kind of a middle of the pack team. They are a middle of the pack team, so to speak. 2-3 in ACC play. But I like the direction they're kind of going long term. I hope they keep Justin Wilcox there and kind of let them kind of build around Ron Rivera, kind of maybe a little bit ahead of where, not a little bit, a lot ahead of where Stanford is with Andrew Luck doing things. 11, Florida State. Just because you beat Wake Forest does not mean you jump in my top 10 of the power rankings, but they are right there. That was a nice bounce back, finally, win for Florida State. They're 1-4 in league play, but they also have an opportunity to maybe make some noise here down the stretch and take care of business enough where, okay, they could, this is a power ranking, could end up rising up into top 8 territory. They play at Clemson this weekend, night game. That'll be fun. We'll be watching that somewhere in Boston, so hit us up. Virginia Tech at home, then at NC State, kind of a tough place to play, and then at Florida. They have a good enough schedule here down the stretch that obviously Mike Norvell could keep his job, but they could end up certainly being it could end up, Mike Norvell could kind of have a Billy Napier type of end of this season like Billy Napier had last season. So Virginia Tech at number 10, they are just fighting their tails off for Philip Montgomery. You got to give them credit. They are probably a team that is not going to finish that well. Kyron Jerome's really kind of struggling. He's just to throw the ball as a whole. Clemson at number 9, Cade Klubnik bouncing back. That at least gives you a little bit of momentum. I am projecting that Clemson is going to beat FSU this weekend and finally kind of, not finally, definitely break through on that run that they've been on, or lack of a run in Death Valley, and they'll finally break through and get that win. Then you've got NC State at number 8. That is where I've got them. You get a lot of credit for beating Georgia Tech. That roster is still good. They're 2-3 in the ACC. You got to give them credit for what they did. They do have a chance here to play spoiler down the stretch a little bit and just kind of finish on the right side of things. Maybe prove me wrong as far as making the change at the top there. They do play Miami, and then of course they play UNC and they play Florida State. So they're on a bye this weekend. They'll kind of stay steady there. And then you've got Miami at number 7. I'm not down on Miami by any means, but they are finding ways to lose in November. And they probably should be lower, but that would be a projection. And that's because they can't win in November. I mean, they just can't. Mario Cristobal now 4-9. And here's what he said about the officiating. They said that they reported a bunch of calls and you know, penalties against them and things like that. Miami has to find ways to not put themselves in that position. That roster is way too good for where they're at right now. Or should I say, once again, he said, we've not heard back yet. Yeah, there was a combination of holding, pass interference picked up and whatnot. So we're looking for answers on that and certainly eagerly awaiting what the response is, as well as the roughing the passer one, which, we certainly don't agree with. But at this point in time, the best we can do is turn it in and hope for a better result next time. But we have not received an answer yet. Miami lost that football game because they could not finish. Carson Beck turned the ball over. They had a golden opportunity to finish the game. Obviously, Miami fans are going to take issue with that. There were some calls missed against SMU. There's a block in the back on the punt return that set up the field goal right before half. There's a block in the back twice on the same player. So, look, when you leave it to the officials, you're going to get what you get. But Miami, they need to find a way to change their mindset about November. And when the going gets tough, for whatever reason, Miami is just folding under Mario Cristobal. So we've got a great roster. They've got to figure some things out. Number 6, I am going to kind of shake things around here. Number 6, I'm going to go with Duke. I don't think that the Blue Devils are a juggernaut of sorts because they went to Clemson and won. Everybody's doing it. But you've got to give them credit for obviously having the nads to go for 2 there and the win. So congrats, Manny Diaz. Huge win for him. Really sets the program up well. They only have 1 loss in league play. Obviously, people aren't talking about them enough. I didn't talk about them once in the college football playoff part of this show. But their end of the season schedule here is at UConn. Tough game. Who scheduled that? But Virginia, North Carolina, Wake Forest. Very doable. They could win out. Again, we talked about it. The cleanest way for the ACC is if Virginia wins out. So a big game there in a few weeks between Duke and UVA. Number 5, I'm going to give it to SMU. They obviously got the win over Miami. They're playing Wake Forest game and aside, they're playing good football, but they are also in a situation where they certainly have a lot to still clean up down the stretch. They need a bye week, and they'll have opportunities to move up. But that Wake Forest loss can't kind of be ignored when you're looking at SMU. When you look at the top, let's see, the top 4. I think I'm getting out of order here. The top 4 for me. This is where it's going to get a little interesting, because my top 4 for the ACC right now is number 1, Louisville. Number 2 is Pitt. Number 3 is Virginia. Number 4 is Georgia Tech. So that's where I'm at. I probably should have Georgia Tech above UVA in the power ranking, but they did just lose. They literally just lost, and they got destroyed by NC State's offense. And Georgia Tech's defense has not necessarily been good all year. UVA is winning gritty games, and they're figuring that out. And obviously they have a loss to NC State as well, so it's kind of a moot point there when comparing the two. But Georgia Tech just lost. So they're at number 4. They have a chance to bounce back. They will obviously have some opportunities to prove me wrong as well, with Pitt on the schedule later this season. Then you have Virginia at number 3. They have a pretty clean run potentially to the ACC championship, as we talked about earlier in the show. Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech, really good opportunity for them to finish and get to Charlotte. But it's my power rankings. It's my power rankings. And there's no doubt in my mind that as far as the best ball being played right now is Louisville and Pittsburgh. That's my opinion. That's just what it is. And we'll see how Louisville adjusts losing Isaac Brown. That is one that could really impact all of this. Do they look different, or do they see guys step up as a whole and just pick up the rock and keep toting it? Kewan Brown, Braxton Jennings, guys like that. Can they really be those guys in major conference games and produce? And Miller Moss, who I have not been high on since the offseason, your team is number 1 in the Billy Embody All Access AM power rankings. Congrats. That gets you nothing. Miller Moss has to play more efficient and better than he has as of late. Can he do that without one of, if not the best running backs in the country? That is a huge question for Louisville. So they'll sit at number 1. They do have a chance to certainly prove me right or prove me wrong. Cal, Clemson, SMU, Kentucky down the stretch here. And of course, we all know about Pitt's murderer's row of Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami to close things out. Pittsburgh is getting, not enough love and not enough things teed up their way for what could be a dramatic finish to the season. They are on a bye this week, and then they host Notre Dame. That one, I can't believe this. This game, and I hope this is wrong. Let me see. This can't be right. It is listed on ESPN as ESPN Plus. I really hope this is wrong. Okay, there we go. So it's going to be on ABC or ESPN. It's currently listed on ESPN Plus, but it's going to be a 11 a.m. game in a couple weeks on that November 15th day where Pitt welcomes Notre Dame to town. What a huge game. Huge opportunity for Pat Narduzzi to keep the train rolling. And if they can come away with a win, they can throw this thing into total chaos. Do want to, as we kind of wrap up here on the show, we will do predictions on Thursday, again, 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time. And we will break all of that down ahead of week 11. We will have some guests. We will try to talk a little basketball. I'm working on getting a couple of coaches, maybe some players, kind of start mixing them in for some, short kind of big picture, short appearances, because college basketball is going to move really fast through this non-conference as ACC and the rest of the country tipped off this week. We will get some basketball coverage on this show, but right now everything, of course, is certainly centered around the ACC and its teams competing for that college football playoff spot or spots, I should say. But as we're recording today, November 5th, Wednesday morning, Duke did take care of business against Texas last night. I watched a little bit of that. That Duke team's going to be really tough to beat in the ACC once again. They have so much talent on that roster. They have a huge just chance to kind of right the wrong of last year's team not doing as well as it could have. Obviously, they made a run. They were very good, but they probably feel like they left some meat on the bone there with all the talent they had on Duke's team last year. But they looked good beating Texas. Sean Miller's trying to revamp that program, but that was a game that I did watch last night and got a chance to get my first look at Duke as they tipped off in the Dick Vitale Invitational. And Thursday night, got some other games here. Jackson stayed at Louisville, Bethune-Cookman at Miami, Citadel at Boston College, Texas A&M Corpus Christi at SMU, Wright State at Cal. That's the Thursday slate. And no games for the ACC men's side of things on Wednesday. But I will say this, Bethune-Cookman, look out, Jai Lucas, because they did take Auburn to overtime. So I'm sure the Miami Hurricanes won't be taking them lightly on the hardwood, and they will look to get things rolling over there after opening up their season against Jacksonville, getting a win there for Jai Lucas. So with that, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this edition of All Access AM. You got a lot of me this morning. You even got to see Jack, my son, roll in here. And I don't know if Michelle made it in the camera shot there, but got to see him, or maybe Jack was on the side. I don't know. But he was waking up, and we appreciate you guys waking up with us on All Access AM. Do want to remind you guys one final time, we were presented by OPW Solutions, 214-444-3305, info at OPW Solutions, full service commercial maintenance company in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, and expanding in 2026. So make sure you reach out to them today. Do me one final thing as we sign off. Hit that subscribe button at All Access AM. Just look down on YouTube and see if you're subscribed. If you see a button that says subscribe, click it. It's free to do. Free. If it's clicked, and you see it and it says subscribed, thank you. We appreciate all of you guys. Please share this with your friends and family. Follow us on all of our social media channels, All Access AM. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten. We are rolling into November on a hot streak, and we can't wait to share with you guys what we got going on for this stretch run of football season and into college basketball season. A lot of exciting things to share with you guys over the course of the season. So we will see you guys Thursday where we will preview another round of ACC football. So I'm Billy Embody. Thanks so much for joining us here on All Access AM. Leave us a comment in the section, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you catch us, and we'll try to get back to you. So thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.